Hi, everybody. Even though I graduated from Dakota Ridge more than 2 decades ago, back in 2002, I am, in many ways, closer to the community than I've ever been. And the Dakota Ridge community, over the last month plus, has undergone 3 difficult losses. The first one, the woman on the right, is Lindsay Durand. She is seen in this picture with her husband, Dakota Ridge assistant football coach Tierre Durand. And Lindsay, though she was only in her 40s, had a very difficult health battle and died in early September. I didn't know Lindsay too well, but I do know her husband Tierre pretty well, and certainly been a difficult time, and I think Lindsay certainly played a part in making Tierre the fine person he is now. And Tierre's gotten through it by coaching. It's been his distraction, and after I let some time pass, I wrote an email of sympathy to Tierre, and he thanked me for it and called me a part of the Dakota Ridge football family, even though when I call Dakota Ridge games at Jeffco Stadium, I'm not allowed to show favoritism, but still, Coach T, as I call him, called me part of the family and a fine guy. I think Lindsay played a big part in that. And Dakota Ridge wore Lindsay's favorite color of purple in the game right after she died, and they got a 17-point win over Green Mountain. They were clearly ready to go, wanted to win for Lindsay, and they did. So Lindsay Durand, unfortunately, gone prematurely, as is this kid, Walker Munch. And as you can see, he played basketball in this football photo. His credit to the Denver Post. They get all the credit for that, but Walker Munch, who graduated in May, passed away in a dirt bike accident that, I'll just say, didn't have to happen. Still, a lot more details to come out, but just sounds like didn't have to happen. And Walker, I didn't know too well either. Might have met him a time or two. Do know his family, and they're fine people. And all I've heard about Walker is how great a guy he was, how happy he always was, how he'd always give hugs to people instead of just handshakes or fist bumps. A fine person gone way too soon, as you can see, born in 2005 and gone now. He passed away on September 21st. In the football game right after he died, I not only called the one right after Tierre Durand's wife Lindsay died, I called their game against Cherokee Trail right after Walker died, and Walker's younger brother Trent had never scored a varsity touchdown. But on the night against Cherokee Trail, in a game Dakota Ridge won by 18 points, Trent scored twice. Once on an end around and the other time catching a pass in the end zone. I wonder about divine intervention sometimes, and for Trent Munch to get his first 2 touchdowns on varsity right after the untimely passing of his older brother Walker certainly made me think. And then the third loss was of this man, Larry Franca, the former athletic trainer at Dakota Ridge. He opened the school in 1996. And I'll spend a little time talking about Mr. Franca because I did know him fairly well. He was a teacher of mine. My senior year, I took athletic training class. He also helped me announce right before my first high school baseball game. He wrote a script for me, told me what to say, told me how to behave, told me how to handle announcing, and was very helpful. And I want to make a few points here. There was a difference between being a trainer and a manager. I was a manager for the baseball team my sophomore and junior years. Mr. Franca led a training program where students could become trainers for teams, and a number of students took advantage of that, and some said Mr. Franca was so inspirational to them, they became nurses. In that training class I sat next to a kid who didn't like Mr. Franca. I mean, he's entitled to his opinion, but I will also say that kid was impossible to get along with. He had his own ways of doing things, but Mr. Franco will always be a fine guy to me. And give you another few personal stories. Back when I was a student and started announcing baseball at Dakota Ridge, I'd play oldies in between innings. That's what I liked. That's what most of the parents liked. Although I got ridiculed often by players and peers for playing oldies, Mr. Franco disagreed with that, saying my music choice was stupendous, and even told me Bobby Day's Rockin' Robin from the late 50s was his favorite song, a song I'll never listen to in the same way again because of that. I'll always think of Mr. Larry Franco when I hear Rockin' Robin. During COVID, we obviously couldn't see each other, but Mr. Franco sent me his Facebook message wishing me happy birthday and congratulating me on what I'd done. I congratulated him as well because he's in the Dakota Ridge Athletics Hall of Fame, and the auxiliary gym is named the Franco Fieldhouse in honor of him. And I congratulated Mr. Frank on these accomplishments, and he congratulated me on my press box, and I mentioned the Hall of Fame. He said, "You'll get there someday," telling me I'll be in the Dakota Ridge Athletics Hall of Fame someday. If that ever does happen, first person I'll think of outside of my family is this guy, Mr. Franco. And then in 2023, when I was having quite a run, I got to do the RMAC Women's Basketball Championship game. I got to do a high school state championship game. And it was after that high school championship game I posted on Facebook what I had done. Mr. Franco commented, "Your time, your goal." Also remember Mr. Franco being, right before I went on stage to graduate from Dakota Ridge, Mr. Franco gave me a handshake congratulating me. And I think, and if it's not just my personal stories, I think these stories will tell you most everything you need to know, as if you haven't heard a bunch already, but these stories I think will really stick out. 2 years after I graduated from Dakota, I was at a basketball game as a fan. This is before I got into announcing, and two female athletes who graduated a year after me and a year before this game was played made a beeline to Mr. Franco to give him big hugs. And then, back in 2019, I didn't get to say hi to him because I was preparing to announce the game. But Mr. Franco had come out of retirement to cover, to be an athletic trainer for a lacrosse game at Trailblazer Stadium. And Amy Ziegler, a teacher at Dakota Ridge, a gym teacher, who I know worked with Larry Franco every day but for years, but still, I remember her going down to the field. Her son was playing in this lacrosse game, and I remember Ms. Ziegler going down to the field to give Mr. Franco a hug. I mean, if people are going out of way to give you a hug, you've done something. You've been influential, and Mr. Franco was clearly that, to me and to most people he met. And like I said earlier, helped inspire people to become nurses. So it's been a tough time, but to use the Impressions song that I've used before, led by Curtis Mayfield, everybody keeps on pushing. Paraphrase, title of the song, Keep on Pushing. So Lindsey Duran, Walker Munch, Larry Franco, all passed away in September. The Dakota Ridge community certainly reeling, but the fight continues. I thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.